What's up, everybody? I'm with Christian Ochoa Lavernia. How are you doing, Christian?
I'm great, Nick, man. Good to see you again, buddy.
Yeah, you too. It's been. I realized that we talked last was 4 years ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah, it was like 4 or 5 years ago.
A lot has happened.
It's wild. Um, so yeah, how you been? How's life going?
Life's good, man. It's been pretty good. The My industry, the acting world, if you will, has been slow for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Dealt with, obviously COVID. We've dealt with strikes.
Yeah.
It's been, so it's been an interesting world for people to navigate and get creative and how to stay busy and how to stay working. Because everybody's taking a hit. So
Yeah.
it's landscape in US right now is tough. It's very expensive to shoot in LA, and a lot of
Hmm.
are moving abroad. So it's an interesting time,
Yeah.
but I've managed to stay somewhat busy during that time. So I'm very grateful for that. Very lucky.
That's that's good. That's
Yeah,
great.
man.
That's great to hear that. That's awesome. So I'm gonna dive into the questions. We'll get right
Yeah,
to it.
do it.
All right, Christian. So when did you start acting?
Ooh, so I mean, technically, started when I was a kid in theater in middle school, and my first play was Midsummer's Night's Dream. And from that
Hmm.
point forward, I always knew that I wanted to do it. I mean, it started as a kid. The first thing I ever watched that made me think like, man, I want to do this was Jim Carrey and Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
That just changed my world. And I'm like, do that, talk out of his ass for a while. I'm like, this is the best job you can ever have. And
Hmm.
then I go black in middle school, and my mom was a cheerleading coach for my middle school team, and she took us to go see a film. She meet Joe Black, and it was a packed theater. How theaters used to be, I'll never forget. So much fun because every seat was full. And there's a spoiler alert, but the movie's really old. There's this beginning when Brad Pitt and the love interest are walking back and forth, and Brad Pitt's walking, and he turns around and she's walking, and then he just keeps walking, and then she turns around and looks at him, and then he's walking, so she's like, "Oh, whatever," this kind of love lost sort of thing. And then he stops in the middle of the road, and he looks at her with this like longing in his eyes, and then he gets hit by a car, and he dies. And I was the only person in the theater, like just crying, laughing. I was like 12 years old. The funniest thing I'd
Oh,
ever seen. And
oh
what
my God.
took shape after that was, Anthony Hopkins and his
Yeah.
performance, and that also again was like a little light bulb went on. I'm like, I love this. I want to do this.
Yeah.
Fast forward years later, I want to say 20 something years later,
Yeah.
working in LA when I was in the restaurants that I worked at as a server. I,
Hmm.
I was lucky enough to meet Sir Anthony Hopkins. Unfortunately, one of his houses burned in one of the fires in LA. So he was staying at
Yeah.
the hotel at quite a long time. And I would
Mm.
take care of him. I ever went up to him. I was like, "Oh, here you go. Here's your check, Miss Sir Hopkins or Sir Anthony." Like, "Oh,
That's
call
so
me Tony."
cool, though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he goes,
Hmm.
call me Tony." Yeah, super. I was like,
Hmm.
kid on Christmas morning. And speaking about Christmas morning, one Christmas morning, I changed shifts with one of the servers who was Juan, who was an angel, and he let me switch with him so I can work the morning shift, have the night off. And
Yeah.
Sir Anthony there with his or Tony with his wife Stella, his great wife Stella, and my buddy Mark was serving them. He's like, "Hey, take their table. I'll take your section." I said, "Yeah, you sure?" He's like, "Yeah, we'll go." Long story short, at the end of it, I was like, "Thank you, Merry Christmas. It was such a beautiful pleasure to serve you on Christmas morning. May
Yeah.
you have the best." Yada yada. And as I'm walking away, Tony goes, "Where you from?" And then
Mhm.
that started the conversation. I'm like, "Well, my family in Cuba, yada yada yada." And then, next thing you know, he's like, "You're an actor, right?" And we were talking about that. Before I leave, Anthony Hopkins is giving me his phone number that he wants to. He's putting together like this symposium, right? This little class, if you will, and he's inviting me to class.
Mhm.
And dude, so for the next like 6, 7 months, I went to sort of, retrospective class with Anthony Hopkins, like talking, and I'll never forget. He came up to me, he did one of his impersonations of Silence of the Lambs, and he went glass of Chianti, and then he did it right in my face. I was like, oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of things are just like when that happens in your life, especially if you're chasing this career. Those are sort of little confirmations that you're on the right path, right?
Yeah.
So, so beautiful, and that means so much to you. And one of the things that kind of highlighted to me when I was little why I wanted to act, and all of a sudden he's training me. That was beautiful.
That's amazing.
But then
That's like
I was like
a
24.
dream come true.
What was that?
I said that's a dream come true.
Dream come true. And then
Yeah.
about 24, 25, 24, 25,
Mm-hmm.
I went to school and I got my degrees in different things, my master's in business and whatnot, and it just wasn't the life for me. It's not what I liked. And then
Yeah.
I moved to Tennessee. I just had the worst time in Tennessee. Not that Tennessee was terrible, but the job I had, it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So I said, Mission Impossible at the movie theater. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, why did I just do that? Like, I love that. I loved drama. I loved all that. I should have just done that. And it just hit me. Like, I always like, I had so much pressure when I was younger. I gave myself to grow up and have a career and have a family and all these things. And I gave myself so much pressure that each year that went by, I felt like I was wasting time and losing time. But
Yeah.
then it finally dawned, like, I'm 24 years, the first time around, I'm young. Like, I'm not old. I could still do this. So I moved back to Miami and I just started all over again.
Yep.
Forget the degrees, forget loans and everything I had to pay. I'm going to do this, what I wanted to. Yeah, from Miami on, it took shape. Went back to improv classes, this and that. I finally booked my first guest star on a show, Burn Notice. My first guest star was like the penultimate episode of the show. So if I didn't hit then, I would have never hit that show in Miami because it was ending on season 7. And
Oh.
from that, man, I had a little reel with that on the reel and a bunch of student films that I did. That I was very grateful for those student films because they gave me an opportunity to act.
Yeah.
What you have to do, you're starting off, you just have to act.
Yep.
Get all the kinks out, learn it out. Suck terribly, but take
Mm-hmm.
chances. And
Yep.
those student films, that. So I moved to LA in 2013. And then from there, that was it, man. It was like sort of the year of the Latino during that time. So it's like I got a lot of auditions, thank God.
Yeah.
So I was able to fine tune, and fail, and embarrass myself
Yep.
over and over again in auditions. I finally went to a class for audition technique. Annie Grinley was in the class, and Carla was my coach, Carla Rosati, and she taught me how to audition. And from that point forward, I learned how to audition. It's a very different skill than acting on screen. Learning to audition is a whole different thing on its own, and you have to learn how to audition. And
Yeah.
then when you go on screen, that's more scene study and stuff like that. But yeah, man, that's how it started for me.
That's amazing.
Gonna be 39 this year, so it's been 15, 16 years grinding it out.
Doing great. Doing great. Okay, so what is your favorite part about working and acting with co-stars?
Depends on the co-star, really. Everybody's you can't you can't like for the most part. I mean, I get on with all my co-stars, but
Yeah.
everybody has a approach to how they prepare for work and how they prepare when they're shooting, right? When they're working. Some people come in prepared, memorized, and like they're good to ready to go. And some people like are literally learning the lines on the day. And I don't hate either or. I think there are some things that I go in super prepared because I'm like, okay, I'm a little nervous about this one, and I want to make sure that I'm on. There's some days that I go in and I'm like, you know what, this scene feels like it has to be more lived in, like it has to be loosened. So if I'm too constrained on the lines that I'm supposed to say, then I don't give myself the luxury of being free. So
Yeah.
there are some days where I'm like, as I'm going in, I'm like, I'm learning it. You know why?
Yeah.
Because when the scene starts, it feels fresh. It feels like
Yeah.
real thoughts. It feels, oh, I'm having these character thoughts because I'm not like so automatic. So it really depends. I flip flop. I don't have one time. It depends on the scene for me, really.
Yeah.
But
Makes
like some
sense.
co-stars. Some, yeah, yeah. Some co-stars are that way, and you have to adapt and overcome
Mm-hmm.
because if I'm reading it, I'm supposed to go shoot, right? And let's say I've never worked with this other actor before,
Mm-hmm.
and I practice it and I practice it. I'm practicing my lines based on what I think the other actor will say or how they will react. But
Mm-hmm.
then what happens is I practice it one way so many times, and then
Yeah.
they give me a completely different action,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not prepared to organically to that reaction, then I've shot myself in the foot.
Yeah.
So you never know what your co-stars are going to do. You know, that's why you have to be loose. That's why you have to sort of give yourself that sort of confidence that you can do it, and you got to know the material, but not be so stubborn about how you want it to come out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I love co co-stars are that I love working with are ones that are like myself. I think
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that show that be kind. Number one,
Mm-hmm.
kindness. Be prepared. But also have a good time. Like what we're doing is difficult. Acting, don't people don't realize, anyone. That's not just acting; it's everybody on a crew, costume, the ADs. It's such hard, long hours, right?
Yeah.
So to go there and be everybody who's working their ass off, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I love kind co-stars that are fun, that when that beautiful space between action and cut.
Yeah.
When you can lock in on that, and I mean deliver and have different takes, and their different takes will allow me to have different takes, right?
Yeah.
Then we're reacting off, and then cut, that moment's gone, and then we can go back to like enjoying what we do.
Yep.
But not all co-stars are like that. Some co-stars don't like to talk to anybody, but I respect it. All right.
Mm.
You do you, I do me.
Yeah.
It's what it is. Those are the kind of co-stars I like to work with. People that are confident in themselves to be a kind person, because I feel a lot of unkind people. It really comes from a place of self-doubt, not being confident in themselves, and sort of manifests in ugliness sometimes, or an attitude or something. So that then becomes difficult to work with because not no fun to work with. I want to have fun when I'm working. It's fun what we do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the more fun and they're having, the better these scenes are going to be.
Yep.
And that even from very dramatic scenes, like you don't have to. You can still be loose, still be kind.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's a there's a difference between being to yourself and focused,
Mm-hmm.
which I respect. There's a difference between that and so I'd rather not work. But if you're focused, like hey,
Yeah.
but I have a couple examples of actors that are like that. Some of my closest friends, Marvin Crondon Jones III, he voiced Tombstone in the Spider Verse, and he actually played Black Lightning Whale.
Hmm.
Him and I did Halo. We played partners, like we're like husbands,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of Emmett J. Scanlon, everything.
Mm-hmm.
He's just Mobland. Another guy that I mean, crying tears of laughter.
Yeah.
So funny to work with. But when Don and when Marvin are on, forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
They're killers. Killers. So good.
That's
But
amazing.
get off, you know what? It's all good. It's all love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a great.
That's awesome. So, what has been your favorite role so far? Yeah.
I think I have many. I don't have one.
Yeah.
I'll have different reasons. So if you don't mind, I'll give
Yeah.
a couple and
Mm-hmm.
why. Right. Um. The
Mm-hmm.
pitch for Fox was Levon Duarte. I played
Yeah.
Cuban catcher. It comes to play for San. It was the first show that was ever licensed by Major League Baseball, so we were legit the Padres. The uniforms were real. We played at the parks. We played at Petco Park in San Diego, Dodger Stadium, Yankee Park. I think time changed at San Fran. I mean,
That's cool.
beautiful. Be able to do all those things. And I played a catcher, which I was a catcher growing up. That was like baseball was my sport. My hands are still scarred and and calloused from the good old days of being a ball. I was a catcher. I got to play a catcher on the show. I never made it to the major leagues, which was my first dream before acting. And but on this show, I did get to make it to the major leagues, and I was a major league catcher, and I was damn good. So that was like almost like killing two birds with one stone in a career that was just beautiful and poetic for me, and it almost like I was able to give
That's
baseball
awesome.
closure, you know. So to me, that was such a show, and it was just a beautiful show because it was about the first female baseball player in
Mhm.
a team. So it was like of the time, and even now to this day,
Yeah.
talking about equality and
That's
whatnot. It was an incredible show. It got canceled because
awesome.
politics. I think politics. I get into
Mm.
that whole other podcast. Um, and I want to say
Yes.
Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. I got to play Eddie Chow Chow Hernandez. I played a special force soldier. I was like the
Hmm.
right hand man of Jake Gyllenhaal. Um, for me, Guy Ritchie's always been one of my favorite directors of all time since I was growing up. I remember being in college, walking around campus. I had my headphones on, and it was an iPad at the time. There was no iPhones, and listening to the Snatch sound as I was studying. Um, Song Clint by Clint called Diamonds.
That's
That's the one I always remember. And so Guy Ritchie's been like this dream. So to be able to be in a Guy Ritchie film alongside one of my
yeah.
favorite actors, Jake Gyllenhaal, who I think is just like an
Yeah.
outstanding artist.
Mm-hmm.
Mysterio, for you Marvel
Yep.
lovers. That was sort of that moment, another moment in my career where like the Anthony
Yeah.
Hopkins moment where it's like, hey man, you're on the right path, you're doing your thing, and
Yeah.
you're getting to work with these incredible people. Just kind of like solidifies your belief in yourself, right? Um, and I would say there's a couple ones because I'll say two. Just one of the
Yeah.
last was a diplomat. I'm in season 3; it's
Yep.
about to come out this year. But just working with that team, Harry Russell, Rufus Sewell, Allison Janney, and Deborah Kahn, the showrunner. It's like a dream come true because they're such a dream team. It's like an elite group of actors that are just phenomenal at what they do and a phenomenal showrunner. So it's a little intimidating when you start,
Yeah.
but then when you get there,
Mhm.
it feels like family. They're all cool. They're all chill. Carrie Russell, so energetic. She's exactly who I want to be the day I'm number one on a show. Like who I would model
That's awesome.
it after because I think innately I'm
Hmm.
kind and energetic, and that's the kind of person I am. So
Yeah.
I'm aligned that way. But I feel like everyone is beautiful. Carrie Russell, right? And I grew up watching her. Listen, that was a dream. And there's another show I did now. I can't get into um because it's not out yet and hasn't been announced, but it's called Neuromancer, and it's going to be an Apple TV show with Callum Turner and Mark Strong. Um, it is based on the book
Hmm.
Neuromancer, written in the 80s, and it's like the Matrix got their ideas from this show. It's like William Gibson is a writer of the book, and he's like the godfather of
Oh, okay.
cyberpunk. Anything cyberpunk, this is the OG, the original, and the character I play on it is I can't reveal that, but what I will say, it's so refreshing and wonderful when you get those kind of roles because
Hmm.
it's a complete character role, which is my dream, the character guys that are obviously guys. And there's always a wrestle between like I think people want thinking that like, oh well, you have the physicality of a lead guy, but I'm like, yeah, but I have
Yeah.
the mind of a character actor, right? So for me to be able to play this incredibly different, weird, I can't get it. I want to get into it so bad.
Yeah.
You can tell, but
Yeah.
I can't give away stuff.
That's a,
But it was amazing. That comes out I think next year or something. But that was an absolute blast. And uh, yeah, I gave
that's
you four
amazing.
there with
That's so
different reasons.
exciting. Um, I remember I was introduced to you. Do you remember how I knew who you when do you know?
Yeah,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
healed.
It was like
Right.
Yeah, well,
God, I don't know if we
yeah,
spoke about
I
it last time, but the way I got Ball God, I auditioned for Ball God is like the right hand man
yeah, I
to,
know
I
you're
forgot
talking
the
about.
name of the character, and a guy Australian actor named Chris, wonderful. He's in Ozark. He's fantastic. I auditioned for that
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't get it,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought I had a great audition. And I was in another audition at Wendy O'Brien's office. Fantastic. She cast like Sunny Philadelphia. And I get a call from my team. They're like, "Hey, listen, you got an offer
Mm-hmm.
on Agents of Shield." I was like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, because in the audition, but the other guy was like perfect for that role, but they liked you, so they got a role for you." I was like, "Get out of town!" It was like the first time I'd ever been. I did audition for the
Yeah,
other one, but I didn't have to audition for this one
yeah,
because they wanted me for it. It was like the first time it ever happened in my career. So
that's
I was
amazing.
so excited, but it was like
Yeah.
daunting. Got there, I'm like, these guys are chroma, right? I'm like, do they have a voice? And they're like, yeah, they got a voice. They didn't give me much info. It wasn't until the day I got on set that I spoke to Chris, the guy playing
Mm-hmm.
the other ChromaCon leader, and I'm like, dude, are you putting on a voice? You telling me what you're doing? And then he like started
Mm-hmm.
talking like this or whatever, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I'll do a variation of that,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's I forgot what I did. I don't know. I can't even do it anymore. But it was based on this whole on the day figure it out, which believe it or not, a lot of acting
Yeah.
is really just on the day decision. Sometimes, yeah, like Christian Bale will get time to like lose weight for a role because
Mm-hmm.
Christian Bale and he got time, he knows what he's doing. But like where I'm at, it's like you booked this job.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, by the way, on the day, this is what it's
Yep.
like. I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
think of that. But you have to be adapting creatures of
Yeah.
adaptation.
That's so cool though. I might show a clip of that. I might have to show a clip of Balgad because Agents of Shield is such a good
Yeah,
show. So, do you remember what season it was in? Was that
it was.
6 or 7?
It was.
Was it 5? Okay,
I
I want
think
to say
six.
6 too. So I saw you posted about this. If you can't say anything, don't. But I see you're joining the cast of The Agency. That
Yeah, man.
exciting.
Yeah,
How is that?
great. You got first
Huh?
season yet? Have you seen the
No,
first
but I've
season yet?
heard of it, and I've heard it's really good. Hmm.
Great. It's really good. I mean, it's a dream. It's
Yeah,
a dream cast. Michael Fassbender been like one of my top three favorite actors for a long time.
yeah,
Um, been like Anthony Hopkins, Laura Linney, Tom Hardy, Fassbender, Gyllenhaal,
yeah,
Will Ferrell. That's like those my
yeah.
top, right? And Fassbender is just
That's
incredible. Yeah, I've come on to the show as a regular, playing my character's name is Grandma, straight up. Uh,
Grandma.
my character, yeah, Grandma. Yeah, there's Grandma, there's Grandpa, and we're undercover agents within the
Cool.
CIA in the UK, the American UK branch of the CIA. And yeah, I can't get into what the show about. The first season was
Yeah.
phenomenal. Um, little synopsis. Um, Fassbender's character Martian was on undercover in Africa for a long time, and he's come back. Um, and basically, he's having a lot of psych evaluation, therapy, and he has grandma and grandpa. There was a different
Mm-hmm.
grandma season one on
Mm.
the new grandma. They're following him around. They have to vet him. They have to make sure he was undercover for a long time. They gotta, kind of sort of make sure that he's I guess he's above board, and there's a lot of different things that happen. It seems I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't watched it, but things aren't as it seems. He's not being as
Mm.
honest as he should be, and it goes in a wild sort of spiral of things happening, and it's a political thriller. It's fantastic, and yeah, my character grandma is kind of like an undercover agent within the CIA, almost like the
Yeah.
CIA's dog. They were like me and grandpa are dogs. They're like hunting
Yeah.
search party dogs. They sick us on people, and yeah, man, that's. it's a blast, and again,
Yeah,
legendary actor, Richard Gere.
that's awesome.
Come on, Richard Gere.
Yeah.
I'm
Have you started
so
filming yet?
I'm super. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
I've
exciting.
started the last. Well, I think I'm shooting for the close to
Hmm.
the end of the year, but that's an
That's
absolute
so
absolute
cool.
blast. Yeah, we'll see how it turns out now. That should hopefully be
Hmm.
coming out next year. But like I said,
Hmm.
very grateful,
Yeah.
very blessed, considering the fact that the industry is at a
Yeah.
weird place right now. To have a job is an absolute blessing. To have a
Yeah.
great job is 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 hitting the lotto. It's hitting the lotto, and I've been very grateful that I have.
That's
For asking.
awesome. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It was great talking to you. You know, it's been a while, so I'm glad we got to catch up. And so yeah, I appreciate it.
Oh,